Hello world, it's Dave again, and I got another question and answer video here. Someone else has been kind enough to write me, and so if there's enough questions that it warrants actually creating a video as opposed to just firing off a quick answer on email, I make one. So here it is. And this one is addressed specifically to the wonderful Marielle Rafael, I believe from the Philippines. Yes, and Marielle, you have many questions, and so I will do my best to answer them. It's cool. It sounds like you've already got your teaching position. You're coming over on June 21st, rapidly approaching as it's June 1st now. That's really cool. Yeah, so let's just jump into the questions, make this as concise as possible. So, first question is, do you drive to school? If yes, how do you get the car lease? Did you choose the car yourself, or had Interac done that for you? You'd heard from Filipino teachers that they're all driving Suzuki Wagon-R selected by Interac. When they arrived, everything was all set. Thing is, rather costly, and held them responsible for paying around 45,000 yen a month, so roughly 450 Canadian dollars a month, or I'm not sure about the Filipino currency. So here's the thing, to answer that question, yes, I'm positioned in a rural area, and so I have a vehicle. Although that's not forced on you, you could say to them, I don't want to use a vehicle, and you could just use the mass transit, which is likely there as well. But this cost that you mentioned, the 45,000 yen a month, what your friends probably aren't mentioning, or it sounds like they're definitely not mentioning, is, yes, that is the cost per month. Although mine is actually 40,000, it's not 45,000 a month. And with that cost, you have it split between you and the company, and so you actually only end up paying per month for the rental of the vehicle 20,000 yen per month. And then the thing to consider on top of that is that the company as well pays for your travel. I believe it's 9.6 or 0.7 cents a kilometer. That's what I receive per kilometer. So that's going to be reimbursed to you. And you could even maybe negotiate that with them, because I know that that's something that they've been slowly dropping, whereas people who have even started just a year before myself were being paid 10 cents a kilometer. Little details that they don't tell you, but I feel free to share. But the major point there is that driving is not as expensive in as so far as that you've understood it. It's actually cheaper, and it's really convenient. It's really convenient. I mean, I spend probably per month, not talking about the amount that I'm reimbursed, just the amount of money that I spend on gas is about, I would say about 4,000 yen, so about $40. And then I'm reimbursed usually about half of that cost. So I only end up spending about $220 a month to be able to use a vehicle whenever I want to, and it's incredibly convenient. You could drive around wherever you want. And I do drive around a fair bit, actually, compared to a lot of people. I actually use the vehicle a lot, and that only has me paying that amount of money. So there you go. How many ALTs, question 2, how many ALTs are there in each school you are teaching for? Are they all Interac? I believe, if you were to go through this in a couple steps, to teach at the school, would mean if you were an Interac teacher there, I believe that the schools award their contracts to specific companies. So it's very likely that if you were there, it would only be, if there were other teachers teaching there, that they would be from Interac, because Interac would be awarded the contract for that school, and so it would be other Interac teachers. I just did a sub-assignment where I went to some elementary school, and there they had multiple ALTs. And so I have, I think, a fairly rare circumstance. I mentioned this in a number of videos where I only teach at 2 schools. A lot of people teach at upwards of 3 to 5. And that definitely means that there's going to be other ALTs at the school. But if you end up with a situation like myself where you got a few less, then you may be the sole ALT. But to answer your question, both exist. You might be the sole ALT at that school, but as well, the scenario is that there's a bunch of different ALTs who teach there, alternating between the days of the week. Okay, then your next question, question 3. how much authority do you have in the class, considering that there's a JT on the side? Do you get to plan your activities by your own or consult the JT first? Doesn't it make you feel a little uncomfortable? You used to teach a language school in Vietnam and you had full control of the class, so it would be a first time with someone under the same roof. Sorry. So, a couple ways to answer that question, a couple different aspects I need to address in that question is that it depends on the school that you're stationed at. And I can use the example of this elementary school that I've just taught at. So, when I'm teaching at a junior high school, which is what I usually teach, when I'm not doing a sub-assignment, I am solely at junior high schools. Because of the level of grammar, and I mentioned this in a couple videos, because of the level of grammar, it is necessary that you would have the Japanese teacher there to teach them the finer points of the grammar that you're doing. So you do take on a role in those situations a little less directly involved and more of a team effort. But then branching out from that, it depends on the teacher and the school. Of course, the teacher most, but I say school because every school is different, like every teacher is different. Some of them may want you to take a greater leading role. Some of them may want to take the lead in the class. So you really just need to feel that out if you're at a junior high school. And I think as they grow more comfortable with you, if you make more suggestions or you have ideas for them, they're going to be more comfortable with that. But you really need to be aware of the individual basis, because then some other teachers are just so gung-ho that they want control of it, and I would just, I'd take it as a positive. If you change your perspective to be, okay, in this class, maybe I don't get to have the fundamental leadership role in the class, but then that's a little stress relief for you in the middle of the week. I mean, the grass is always greener. I find if people are always leading their classes, yes, that's satisfying, but then when you speak to them, they say, it wouldn't hurt if I actually had, a couple days a week where I didn't have to do so much. And so that's what those classes can be for you. Vice versa, you might get somebody who all they get is have to stand in the back and they go, oh, I wish I could lead my class more. And I would just say, recognize the value in each if you're in a junior high school and play around that fact and kind of adapt to it. There's I think any situation approached properly can become a good one. Maybe not every situation, but I think very nearly, because in my experience working with these teachers, the vast, vast majority are really, really good people. And if you were really gung-ho, even if they were leading the class more and you wanted to take a more central position, they'd allow that. They would. You just need to figure out what works in each scenario. Then the other thing to say is that if you end up in an elementary school, don't worry about it. You're going to lead every single class. It's going to be all you. There's going to be little to, I don't want to say zero support. There's going to be you leading the class. And I also noticed that the level of English of people who are supporting you, if you ever were to look for support in that situation, is actually a little less. Which, again, stands to reason, because these people, because they don't need to teach any of the more complex grammar, it's not necessary for them to have a greater mastery of English. And so, naturally, the level of English is lower. Again, perspective can prevail here, and if you think about that just as being beneficial for you learning the language more, it's good, because then you won't always default to using English, because you kind of have that, you might call it a crutch. Because everybody's capable of speaking English, you don't practice your Japanese. Different scenarios there. Elementary school, full-on leadership role. It's going to be you all the time, planning your classes, so on and so forth. Junior high, really feeling it out. I've had a couple classes where people have really wanted me to lead, and they just step in for the grammar, and then I've had other people who barely want me to touch a thing, and they just want me to interact with the lesson plan that they've created for the day. So generally a mix. That should answer that question. Pretty good. Anyways, let's see. Okay, you've got the question. You have a question about female dress. So are you expected to wear a suit all the time? No, actually. As soon as you enter into the summer, which you're going to start teaching during the summer, I would say you want to dress pretty formally to begin with. But not like a suit, just like very presentable. And then as you start to develop your relationship, you can get more and more and more relaxed, especially in the hotter months. It's just accepted, and there's sort of a, yeah, I'm not embellishing anything at all here to say that there's something of like a, what the foreigner wears, provided it's acceptable and you don't like look horrible, is just what the foreigner wears. For example, I got a roommate and he goes in with like a, like an athletic shirt and sweatpants, and that's totally acceptable. Granted, he's been in the country for 3 years now and working at these same schools for a while, but just to give you an example of how lax it can become, and I would say that it's even more lax for women than it is for men. Men have like the particular like collared shirt and, whatever, black business pants, where there's a whole myriad of shirt choices that women have that have all these different names that I don't even know how to describe, that you could probably get away with and be fine. Like I say, the main point is to be presentable, and that, as far as a woman's concerned, includes a variety of clothes. So no, you do not always have to wear a suit. The one time that that's going to come up mostly is if you just started and everybody wants you to kind of show respect to the fact that you are just starting. You wouldn't want to show up real casual just to begin with. You'd want to ease into that. So I hope that answers that for your questions regarding the clothing. And then, do you provide your own lesson paraphernalia, or can you humbly ask the school to take care of them? Also, you heard that some of the ALTs aren't even allowed to use the school's printer, so they had to buy their own. I'll go with the printer thing first. I don't know what kind of relationship or where they were teaching, but I would say 9.9 times out of 10, unless you've absolutely alienated your school, that will never happen, or would rarely happen. It's almost unthinkable that a teacher would not be able to use the printer at school, and that's me speaking with a number of different people in their experience. So it's not just my own. I can confirm that for many other people, that if you weren't allowed to use the printer, that would be very, very strange. You want to ask to use anything in the school. You want to, I would say, like, again, when you're just arriving at a school, you want to develop a relationship and rarely make assumptions. But once you have, got yourself in there, then you could just go and use the printer, go and use the laminating machine. Okay, so the lesson paraphernalia, a couple different ways to come at that. For your lessons, something that Interac will introduce to you when you arrive. I think I mentioned it. I've got a video for, the first week of training in Interac, and as much as the training may vary, that's a point that I make, training will vary. Something that I don't believe will vary is that they inform you of the fact that on the Interac website, they have resources available for every single section of teaching that you could possibly be involved with. So if you're at junior high, grades 1, 2, and 3 have suggested learning plan for every single class that you would teach in the course of a year there, and that includes lesson paraphernalia. So say, for example, the goal of the lesson plan that they outline is that you would eventually have a conversation. They're going to have a pre-made conversation that you can just print out and use in that class. Now, that doesn't bar you at all from being more creative. If you want to, if you look at the lesson plan, you think, oh, this would be so much better if I only had this, then you could create your own thing. So it's not that the school is going to provide you with paraphernalia. Interac is going to provide you with paraphernalia off of their website, and then beyond that, it would rest on you, but that would only be if you want to do something in addition to what is already provided. It wouldn't be that you would have a day where you're like, what do I do? I don't have any outline. I don't have any suggestions. I've got to come up with it all on my own. They don't actually have that. You don't have to survive that. I didn't pay attention at the training, and I asked them, I got a couple of classes at the beginning. I was like, I'm not sure where to start in terms of a lesson plan here. This is my first year doing this. And they said, oh, you didn't check out the website? And I was like, oh, website? Okay. And I looked at it, and it's really useful. I will say that you can have, ups and downs to any job, but I would say one of the strengths in this one, in working for Interac, is that resource that they provide you. It's really useful. There's a lot of effort gone into it. not to say that it's flawless. Some of them, you'll read the lesson plans and you kind of wonder, this doesn't make perfect sense, but then you just slightly adjust them, and all the paraphernalia associated with the lessons is still very, very useful. So yeah, that should answer the question about lesson paraphernalia. All right. Yeah, that's about it. I hope that answers all the questions that you had for starting up an Interac. I can say good luck. That's I'm going to say that's an interesting time to start, because you're going to start on the 21st. You're going to arrive. Then you're going to have about a week of training. Yeah, about a week of training or so. Then you're going to get shipped out to whatever assignment it is that you get assigned to. And then it's almost going to be July, and then classes will likely end on the 19th of July before you get your summer break. So you're going to basically teach for 3/4 of a month, or half a month roughly, and then you're going to get a big summer holiday. So you want to talk about easing into something, that's a pretty good way to do it. So yeah, that'll be good. I wish you luck. If you got any other questions, Marielle, please don't hesitate. Yeah, drop me another email. If it's just something I can reply to quickly, I'll do that. If it's something that warrants another video, I'll make another video. So that's all good. And yeah, for the people who are checking this out, not necessarily Marielle, I hope it was useful. If you enjoy it, like, subscribe, share. The contact's always down below if you want to write me an email like Marielle had to have some questions answered regarding teaching. It doesn't have to be necessarily for Interac, obviously. It can be for anything. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, and like I like to say, thanks for tripping with Dave. And until we meet again next time, world, ciao for now. Peace.